Hey, you wild women. How's it going? Busy season, busy season. We all know this. Holidays, Black Friday, all that stuff coming up. But listen, such an adventurous time in our lives. I'm actually working from home today, which I have not been doing because I've been working from the Martel Media Studio, which is such a productive place for me where I don't experience plateaus. But it got me thinking the other day. I think I was either walking the dog or in a shower. And I was asking myself this, did you ever notice how success comes in waves sometimes and it's followed by these mysterious periods where nothing seems to be moving? I thought about this as I reflected back on all the things in my life that I've been successful at and where I failed. And I thought it'd be a great conversation to have with you because I know we reach these plateaus and sometimes we look at plateaus as like a place where there is no progress or that we're failing at something. But really, ultimately, what it means, and I'll share with you in a second, is let me tell you, before I tell you what I think it actually means, is about a story that I discovered a pattern in my life, the plateaus. And I'm going to use the cliched example of going to the gym. I was consistently showing up. So this was like back in my CrossFit days. I was going 5-6 days a week, pushing the envelope, going hard, ripping that muscle, recovering. But I suddenly found myself kind of getting bored with what was going on. Despite the pushing, the adding extra weights, the adding the extra rep, I was plateauing and I was not able to actually achieve some of the things I wanted to achieve, like a pull-up or a heavier deadlift. But then I realized in hitting this plateau that it was a reflection of beyond the gym in my life. There was other things that were happening that I noticed that it wasn't just happening in the gym. So the same feeling of like boredom would creep in with my business once we reached certain revenue marks. I'd reach a goal and then I would, start chasing something else, or I would maintain it for a while. And then there was this really familiar sensation that would settle in. And then all of a sudden the numbers weren't good. The systems were working, but things weren't really improving. And I was getting bored of the mundane stuff, the repetitive stuff. And it really ended up being the signal that I had outgrown current level and that I knew something needed to change. So when you let boredom creep in, you let boredom take the reins. So what I know about plateaus, and I'm going to take one concept completely off the table when it comes to weight loss, not going to talk about weight loss here because we talk about weight loss plateaus. We lose all this weight and then you don't lose anything. When you reach a plateau, meaning you've done all this work, you come to this ledge and nothing's uphill, nothing's downhill. It's just sameness, a lot of sameness, and you get bored. It's because something needs to change. It's that simple. Something needs to change in the way that you're doing things in order to get out of this. Either you stop altogether or you add more weights. And for me, in my situation, in order to gain more muscle at the gym, I needed to change my diet. And I knew this, and I thought it would be this drastic overhaul. No. It was looking at macros, and it was taking certain supplements I needed. And then over the course of a few months, I actually started to see that muscle growth. So when you are in business, parenting, life, you reach these plateaus and you identify this boredom that has settled in because nothing exciting is happening. You're not going forward. You're not going backwards. Everything is the same. Something needs to change. And it's up to you to figure out what that is. So here's some things about this. And I really want to come back to this book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Go and read it if you have not already checked it out. Is understanding that there are plateaus in our life that are natural pauses, like the weight loss example. And then there's self-imposed ceilings. I'm going to add one more thing to this too. God's nudge. God is nudging you to either go this way or stop or holding you back for a reason. But it's up to you to be aware of this happening and to figure out what you need to do. So the natural pause in things, sometimes like when you're training for a marathon, you don't just start out by going and running all the kilometers, the equal distance of the marathon. No, you start by doing like 3 kilometers and then 5, and then you load up your weekends, and there's some days where you pull back. And then there's There's that pause in the training. There's that pause in the development because your body actually has to recalibrate. Your body needs to heal. And that's a natural course of training for a marathon. So there's a natural pause. When it comes to growing your business, you get to that next level and there is a plateau. And it is a natural pause because now all of a sudden you went from being the CEO founder of a $500,000 a year company to running a business that's making 1.2 million. Requires a different version of you. And if you do the work to get to this point, there's a natural pause because you have a bigger team, you have different systems in place. You got to make sure that all this stuff is kind of well oiled before you keep shooting out to create your gigantic moonshot. And some of these plateaus are very healthy and we don't need to overthink them. We just need to know that they are what they are and to enjoy that boredom, so to speak. Don't throw grenades into your business. Now there's other plateaus that are self-imposed ceilings. As Gay Hendricks talks about in The Big Leap, when it comes to like your income, we have an internal thermostat of what we think we can achieve, what we think we're worthy of achieving. And so we'll get to this position where maybe we'll make $100,000 a year and that feels good. So we don't do anything in our life to earn more than that. And in fact, we'll actually sit back and throw grenades into our business to make sure it always comes back to that comfortable temperature. So these self-imposed ceilings or self-imposed plateaus can be as a result of boredom. You don't actually feel like doing this work anymore, so you just stay where you are and you get bored of it. There's self-sabotage because the worthiness thing. I've seen this before where people, they get into this really great routine. They're getting healthier, they're sleeping better, their bodies are transforming because they're losing weight and they're working out. But then all of a sudden they don't feel worthy of that feeling that good. Maybe this is you. They don't feel worthy of that sleep. They don't feel worthy of actually having a six-pack. So then they self-sabotage and they start eating like crap and they just give up, right? This plateau, it's like, I'm here, whatever. And then there's these people that are feeling stuck despite doing it all, despite doing everything they can think of to change this plateau. But really, have we actually done everything that's possible to change this boring phase of growth? These are self-imposed plateaus, self-imposed ceilings. We do these so that we can always recalibrate back to the place that's comfortable for us. For those that are taking gigantic leaps forward, that recalibration might be one chapter ahead or maybe one level up, but where it could be at 10. It's like our mindset hasn't caught up to where we are actually in life or business because we don't feel worthy of that. We're scared we're going to fail. We're scared we're here. Oh my gosh, I've always dreamed of this. I'm cool. I'm just going to sit here for a little while and I'm going to enjoy this, which is great. But then you do nothing to actually excel to get to that next level. So what you need to do in these instances, think about any instance in life where there's a plateau. And I often see this as points in our life where we get bored, is you need to have a very deep awareness of identifying your self-limiting beliefs. Think of anything. For me, it is financial. For me, it is selling out my 300-person event June 12th in Kelowna, BC. I get excited in the mornings about it because I have this whole day ahead of me of all the work I can do to achieve that. And then in the evenings, I always ask myself, did I do enough? Did I do enough? And I have this self-limiting belief. So I think, I'd be okay if I just sold 100 tickets. And we made our money back and everyone had a great time. That's good. No, that's not the point of doing this. So then I get to this position where I recognize, I'm aware of these thoughts that I have. And like sometimes these thoughts serve you, but you really got to be like questioning yourself. Why do you think like that? Renee, why do I think like this? Is I have doubt. And so then there's plateaus where I'm like, I got enough done, so it's good enough. And really, I know the thing I need to do to make that big, bold move, to get that 50K sponsor, to get the 220K sponsors is to pick up the phone. That's it. Ring, ring, ring. That's the big, bold move to break me out of this plateau. And I might not do it because it scares me. Because what if they say no? Well, if they say no, it means that you got to move on to the next. And there's a million other options. It's just that we haven't discovered them yet because we're stuck in this comfortable place. We can't think outside the box. So you actually, and here, this is the key thing to breaking through plateaus, is understanding pattern interruption techniques. First, start off by interrupting how you think about the obstacle, how you think about this phase in your life where you're bored. What is the pattern that you recognize in yourself? You want to crank that thermostat up a little bit to get 10 degrees warmer, requires so much more of you. Are you willing to do it? It means you have to do something you've never done before, get a little bit more fearful, probably take a bigger risk. But do you actually want it enough? And if you do, then you have to interrupt the patterns that keep you in this position. In our house, we noticed the kids were becoming a little bit more, cold and aggressive. And we recognized the need to pull back on their screen time. And it is detoxing. It is tough. Mentally, it's tough for them because they built these little communities with their buddies online. And we've reached this plateau in our household where things started to become so predictable. We needed to break the pattern. We started with a new menu. As my personal trainer says, don't ever call anything a diet because that means you're restricting. No. So we changed the menu to invite more healthy foods into our life. That was one thing. But at the same time, we created these new parameters around their screen time, which also meant that Dan and I needed to be more cognizant of when we were on screens as well. So everything has to change in this house. There was like this plateau and things got easy and predictable. What are the patterns that were serving us to not be more connected as a family, to not get the good night's sleep that we were hoping for, and to not eat as healthy as we wanted? We had to break those. Sometimes it's drastic and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's one little thing, right? A little thing like, think about a full, massive bathtub and you need to empty it and you pull the plug and it's just this little hole and everything eventually drains. So the pattern interruption doesn't have to be something huge, a massive big leap. It could be as simple as pulling a plug. It could be as simple as turning your phone off at 5 p.m. to be with your family. What an easy concept, but really, are you doing it? Maybe you need to put your phone in another room. It's the awareness of the patterns that contribute to you becoming bored and to you staying in this plateau. So there are specific strategies you can do for income plateaus, for business growth, for personal development. For me, it's like breaking the pattern. I love getting up in the morning now, and this did not used to be me, but 75 hard the second time, even though I failed on day 40, got me into the habit of reading 10 pages every single morning. And I choose a book, not because it's the cool new business book on the scene, but it's a book that I need for this point in my life. So now I'm reading some like parenting books right now, which I've kind of dusted off. I've read some of these before, but I need a refresher. And this is now allowing me to learn the things I need to learn in this new chapter of our life. And I still have the books that I'm plugging away at, like Jamie Kern Lima's book, Worthy. I have Joe Dispenza's book that I'm reading as well. So this is allowing me to get through these little plateaus in certain parts of my life. And also understanding like the plateaus are, so in going back to like understanding success stalls. So success is like you achieve something and now you're like, now what, right? You think about those things. Like for me, it could be, I sold out my 300 person event and we had the event and it was profitable as I anticipated. Now what? There's a success plateau where we're here, we achieved it, it was great, that's awesome, let's celebrate it. We do need to think what's next. We do need to know, is this something that I'm going to do in another city, another time? Is it twice a year? Is there a program at the end? We do need to plan for these things. So the success plateau is like, I'm here, now what? I lost the weight, now what? Well, now we fall into maintenance, right? And maintenance can feel just super boring. And that's okay. Maintenance can also be a blessing where maybe you were going so hard for so long that you're burnt out or are burning out. So what do you do? Success plateaus, success stalls too could be a test from God saying, hey, listen, you did this thing. Do you want to keep going? And I tell the story about my podcast all the time. Like the time where rankings tanked because I accidentally deleted a duplicate show on Spotify, and it broke my heart. But I always believe that these failures are just messages and tests saying, do you want to keep going? Cool. You had this goal to achieve 1%, and then the systems recalibrated themselves, and I was at 1%. So now you're actually here where you wanted to be. But in order to get to the next thing is going to require a different version of you. It's going to require different people, different systems, something different. Something has to change. And it's up to you to figure that out and test it out. Do you want to keep going? So think about these things, where they show up in your life as a parent, in business, in marriage. Plateaus can be a blessing, but they're also small. You think of like hiking a mountain. You can take a rest. You can look at the view. You can take a snack, have some water, chat with your buddy. But it's not there for you to stay. You either decide to go back down the mountain or you keep going up. You never stay in a plateau. So look at the things in your life you have to change, where you're bored, where you're fearful, where you're hungry, and know that in order to get out of that boring spot, something has to change. And so I urge you this week, if there's anything in your life there you know that you've plateaued on anything, is just change one thing. It could be unplugging the bathtub. It could be taking that last bite of your snack and continue climbing up. And sometimes we don't know what it is, but the only way to find out is if you take action. So I urge you this week, find out where you're bored, find out where you're stuck, find out where you're stopping yourself, and take action. Until next time, ladies, peace out.